Am I the only one that thought remote flexibility was like working on vacation on a beach or something? Whoops.
All right. Well, welcome to the Thread the Needle podcast. I'm Matt. This is Jacqueline.
Hi, guys.
Thank you for joining us again this week. This is our Women's History Month episode, and we have a room full of guests that you will see. Let's just kick it off with a question for Jack. Why did you want to have this group on the podcast today?
Because they're the best, obviously. But no, really. To kick off Women's History Month, I thought it would be fun to have our women's group here. We have entrepreneurs and creatives in this group. And for me, just finding out about this group 2.5 years ago, I was like wanting something to share with other women in similar spaces. And I felt like I was trying to find that at the time. And thankfully I met Sarah and Afrotina and all of you beautiful ladies. And I felt like it came at the right time, because I feel like when you're in this space, sometimes it's tough to have conversations with other friends and family, and sometimes they just don't get it. And I felt like this was such a safe space for us with women that just get it, because we're all in similar spaces. And another thing that I loved about this group was the diversity of it, and that's huge for me, and it was just an added bonus. And it's been great. I feel like it speaks to what our group is, because we've been doing this for 2.5 years, and we can talk about literally anything, whether it's highs, challenges, and really just support each other and encourage each other in all of our walks of life, whether we have like a new venture for ourselves or anything that we're working on. I feel like you guys have been such a huge role in my life the last 2.5 years, and I felt like I've grown just as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Love that. Sarah, tell me about the group. Like, where did the name come from? What led you to start this?
Yeah. I don't think I came up with the name. Did you?
I think I might have.
Or Eddie. Y'all, I think you guys were the ones who.
Like Oak Cliff Women's Counsel, and then I feel like the spin on counsel, the way it's spelt, is kind of the little twist of it.
Yeah.
Instead of the traditional counsel in that way.
Yeah. I think when I was at a point where, kind of like Jacqueline said, I don't feel like a lot of my friends got it. And I think there's like being a woman and owning your own business, and we've owned our own businesses, my husband and I, for like 15 years now almost. And so I think there was just a point where it was like, I need other people who understand where I'm at. And I think it's also hard as a woman to like find another group of women that like are just constantly supporting you and like cheering you on. And I think that's super important to have. And I just, it's like, there's no jealousy. There's no weirdness if like someone does something awesome. Like, we're all genuinely so excited for the other person. Mm-hmm. And that's really what I wanted, was just to have a group of people that I can be real with, and we cry together and we laugh a lot. And we're just always cheering each other on, and we're pumped for each other. And I think that encouragement is really important when you're like doing something on your own, where it's like, am I crazy? I don't know. Like, can I, your husband can only be like your sounding board for so long. Like, you need other people that are kind of in your shoes. And so, And so I was just thinking, like, who are the people that I know that are awesome and running their own business and that I would love to hang around? And I had these 4 girls, and then Afrotina was like, I have a friend, Jacqueline. And I was like, well, I need to meet her. And I'm so glad that we did. And so I feel like it's just been the perfect group of girls. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you guys for letting me crash the party this time.
We will allow it.
An honorary participant. Okay, Kristen, the next question is for you. Tell me a little bit about your business, and then what was like the moment that you felt either called or pulled into entrepreneurship?
So I own All Good Things. It's a gift shop in the Bishop Arts District here in Dallas, and It's super cute. I've had it for almost 7 years, which is absolutely wild to think about. But whenever I think about kind of that moment of when I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, that wasn't my case. And I think for a lot of successful entrepreneurs, it's kind of backwards. It's like maybe you have this passion or this idea or this skill that you just kind of dive into, and then you wake up 7 years later and it's your career. Mm-hmm. And you're like, how did that happen? But that's pretty cool. But I graduated from college and moved down here to Dallas and did like the corporate thing for a while. I was personal assistant for a family for a couple of years. And looking back, just every job that I had really was like a stepping stone and kind of my like walk to my entrepreneurial journey, I guess. But before that, I had worked at a gift shop in high school and then a different one in college. And, you know, it was just a high school job and then it was just a college job for some fun money. But looking back, it's just really what I love to do, and more so than even go to class. Like I worked on Saturdays, I worked all the time, and I think that's kind of what taught me more than a lot of my classes in some ways. And so whenever I was in a position in my corporate career, I was at a crossroads of like, okay, I can either keep going down this path that I'm really not enjoying, and I kind of feel like I'm hitting roadblock after roadblock, or I can just try. And I think ignorance was bliss in a lot of ways. I look back at that time and I was so naive. I was 25. I was poor. I had no idea what I was doing, which I think worked in my favor in a lot of ways, because I think if you know too much, I probably wouldn't have done it at all had I known what the path was going to look like. But yeah, I just kind of decided one day, I think I'm just going to give it a try. And I remember quitting my job and telling my boss, I'm going to open a store. And he's looking at me like I was absolutely nuts and like, okay, do you have a plan? And I was kind of like, no, but we're just going to figure it out. And I'm of the mindset that I'm going to keep going on a path that, as long as the path is there, and if a roadblock comes my way, then, you know, I'll change what I'm doing and change course. And over the last 7 years, it's just kind of been the same path. And, you know, during COVID, I was kind of like, well, if this is my time, it'll be my time and I'll close up shop. And it wasn't. It was like, nope, you're going to keep going. And I was like, okay, we're going to keep this train moving. But yeah, so that's kind of my journey.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's almost the perfect setup to be younger and not have the knowledge of what the
exactly.
path looks like.
Yeah, there are a few things I wish I would have known and I would have done a little differently, but I think it's the founder of Hinge. He has this quote. I'm going to pull it up because I don't like to misspeak for him, but it really was, it's a quote that has just kind of guided me. But it was Justin McLeod, the founder of Hinge. He said, a big part of being a great entrepreneur is being hopelessly idealistic but ruthlessly practical at the same time. And that's kind of always been my motto, like, have these goals, have these dreams, but also be real about everything too. So
yeah, I love that. Okay, next question is for Adriana. What are some significant challenges you feel like you've faced throughout your career, specifically as a female?
Well, thankfully, I have a hair salon, and it's predominantly women. So I feel like we kind of rule that whole realm. And I think maybe like looking back at like all the you sent me this question, and I was like, okay, like what are challenges? Because I don't really view challenges as challenges. I usually see them as like opportunities to learn and grow, and like I don't really like spend a lot of time on them. I'm like, okay, we got to fix this. We got to move on. But one of the biggest challenges I think for me was like learning how to be a leader. And that was like, oh, I actually have to lead people, not just like tell them what to do. And so I think for me that has like been the most challenging. And it's still an ongoing challenge because, you know, people are people and they have emotions and you have to like cater to every single person's emotions. And so I think, just learning how to be a leader and having empathy for people and understanding. And the business is business. It's black and white. Like you have a problem, you fix it, you move on. But like when you have people that you have to nurture and grow and show them the way, like I think that's been the biggest challenge. So I always say like, and I think as a female too, because we tend to be on the softer side. I usually am not. And so I think that was a challenge. Like, how do I tap into the more feminine side and have a balance of being the masculine of like owning a business and all that, but then also having the feminine side where I can be empathetic and compassionate towards my team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that view of challenges not being a setback, but more so like an opportunity to get to another level, like to learn something. And yeah, I think that's super valuable for sure. Afratina.
Hey.
Tell us about what you do. And then the question I have for you is, what do you think is your biggest contribution or impact in the community around you?
It's not heavy at all. Okay, so I'm a photographer and art director. I've been doing photography for about 7 years, and I've been doing freelance photography for about 3.5 years. I actually quit my corporate job during the pandemic. Very bold decision, but have a wonderful spouse and a partner in business, and so that was, nice to have somebody who's also living it and, can help support if things got weird. 'Cause you never know how things are going to go when you go freelance. But yeah, I typically do like fashion photography, creative portraiture. I really enjoy thinking outside the box with my type of photography, especially like still life. I love incorporating floral motifs. Like, that's kind of my jam. As far as like what I've contributed, that's such a difficult thing to like look internally and like analyze about myself, because I just create kind of like from the heart, and then however it's received, and then I get feedback. And I'm actually very surprised by a lot of the feedback that I get. And then I would say that a lot of people would say that I've contributed a lot of like to the Black movement, and it was never intentional, but just like expressing Black Americanness in a very regal yet authentic state. And that's been really encouraging, because that's my motto for photography across the board. Like, no matter what I'm shooting, I want it to feel worthy and regal. So yeah, I think that's like a big contribution that I unintentionally have made in the creative space. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that's probably the best type of contribution too, if it was accidental, because then it's coming from a place of authenticity and like truly who you are and what you wanted to share. So yeah, I love that. Angeli, tell us about what do you do? And then my question for you is, how do you define success for yourself?
Oh, great question. I think it really comes into, I'm a very relationship-based person. And so I had a really great conversation with a friend named Robert, and it was actually this week, and he said something that just stood out to me, and it was like, we are very intentional about the company we keep, and it just kind of just blew me away in that moment. And somebody that values friendship, family, coworkers, people in my life, makes me feel like I have the support that I need in order to be successful. And honestly, I think within the past couple of years, it always felt like the focus has been the destination, when in fact it feels like all of it happens within the journey itself. And I look around and see the success and all the relationships that I've built within the Dallas community, and that's what I've based my success on.
Yeah. It's really kind of the legacy component and like the relationships. And I think I would co-sign that. I think you probably have one of the more curated communities around you that I've ever seen. Just a lot of intentionality and in those relationships. So I think that's great. Okay, Jack, another one for you. Tell us about a pivotal moment that created an opportunity for growth or learning.
Oh, this is easy. I think it was during the pandemic in 2020. I don't think any of us saw that coming and what that would do for businesses. And if you were self-employed, I'm sure everyone had the thought of like, okay, how are we going to get through this? Do we just operate as regular, or do we need to change some things around? And I think we pivoted. We were selling masks at the time, and we kept our doors open. And at the end of the day, that year was probably one of our best years to date, because we just took what we had. We took a risk, and then we just went with it without really any plan. But I think that just speaks to how resilient we were at the time, and what we were willing to do and risk and just figure it out as we went on.
Yeah, so we manufacture leather goods. We couldn't do that because we couldn't get into our shop, being non-essential. And then you had the idea to make masks. Yeah. The first question people always ask, let me just answer, no, they were not leather masks. But we had the sewing machines, and so you had the idea to pivot, and that allowed us to make the masks, but then also continue making our leather goods too. So it was a crazy time. Okay, Sarah, I have another one for you. And first I want to ask you to tell us about what you do, because I started asking that after your first question. So tell me about what you do. And then my question is, how do you stay innovative in your industry? And is there something that you have pioneered in that space that you're particularly proud of?
Okay, well, I'm an interior designer. And so we do mostly residential work, some commercial, some retail, but mostly residential. And then I think, this might be a weird answer. I think every project is innovative because you're starting over from scratch. Everything's new, everything's different. And so you're starting new with every project. And so that's using new materials, new companies. It's like always being in the know of the new tile that people carry, or the new furniture, or I think that is always, you're just constantly being, creating new things. Something I've pioneered? I don't know. I think hopefully we are pioneering a type of design, a style, a vibe. That's our goal, is to not be like anybody else. That's kind of like my goal in life. Enneagram 4. I'm my own. No one is like me. I'm my own person. But I think that's also in design, is like, we don't want to be like anybody else. And so every project we push to do something different and a little bit like funky, and it's not for everybody. Like one time we had a bathroom it kind of blew up like on social media, and someone wrote hideous on there, and we were like, I love this. so my colleague Maddie, sometimes she'll like put on things like in quotes hideous, like because it's a good thing I'm like, I don't want everyone to love this. Like, we want to be innovative with our design, and it might not be for everybody because it's a little bit out there.
It's
That's awesome.
Thanks.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, that's great for social media too.
Yeah.
When haters come comment
Yeah.
on your stuff, it just,
Well, and it's also like, I know not everyone's going to love our design, so don't try to hire me if you don't
Yeah.
like what we do.
Yeah.
That we want people that like what we do,
yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Okay, Kristen, another one for you. So tell me how your vision for your business has evolved. So from a high school job, college job, working in a gift shop to the shop that you have now, and 7 years into it, how have things like changed or evolved over time?
I think it's funny because I just immediately went back and forth in my head. Like, part of me knew all along what my vision was, what it was going to look like, clear as day, and it really is super close to that. On the other hand, I don't really know like what even tomorrow looks like, and so it's kind of funny that both of those things can be true, I guess. I think I'm very proud of where the shop is today. If you would see pictures of the shop on the first day that we were open, I can barely even look at them. It's good. It's good to look at them because it helps me remember where we came from. But it was just very, very different. And, we didn't have a lot of money to start with. And I thought having 2 notebooks on the table was a lot of product. And because for me, it was at the time. And I think I'm proud of the way that I went about it. I think it's really easy to spend a lot of money and take out loans. And in some ways, I probably should have done that a little bit more. But starting at kind of ground zero helped me grow slowly over time. And then 4 years later, I actually could afford to hire Sarah and design the new space and really elevate it in that way. And super proud of that. And even when it comes to staffing, I had one girl that worked for me, I think 3 months in, and maybe a few days a month. But other than that, it was just me. And now I have 1 full-time girl and 3 part-time girls. And I'm a new mom. I had a baby 4 months ago. And so being able to take a maternity leave, in quotes, because really it doesn't really exist for entrepreneurs, but not being in the shop is something that was on my list of goals since the beginning. As I said, I worked at a store in high school. She was a mom, and that was a really big goal of mine. I've always wanted to be a mom. And I thought, she does it well. She's a mom. She's so cool. She has her own business. What a great career for a mom, because I think that's a really hard thing to find. Mm-hmm. And I wish that past me could see myself right now. And I think I would be really excited that I'm where I'm at and I'm a mom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Definitely something to be proud of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
thanks.
All right, Adriana, I have another question for you. Especially being in an environment that's all women, how do you view collaboration in what could potentially be a competitive space?
Well, it's funny. I think I'm not a competitive person, but I am to a certain extent. I do believe there's room for everyone. I mean, my best friend also owns a salon, and we are constantly asking each other for advice. And so, I mean, there are, probably millions of people in Dallas. So for me, I don't want to color everyone's hair. I can't service all those people. Even if I worked every single day 24/7, I still could not service all those people. So for me, I feel like there's room for everyone. And so I don't really see other salons as a competition. I see it as a way of supporting each other, and especially now, I started doing consulting for salons also. So I'm ooh, I can help them grow their business, and I can help them curate the clients that they want. And also because not every client fits my salon model. Mm-hmm. So I kind of see it more as, I don't know that we would collaborate necessarily, because I think other people don't necessarily have that mindset that I do, that it's not a competition. And I try to like always go and like introduce myself to other salons. I remember at my old location, a salon opened like literally across the street. Like I can just walk across the street. It was right there. And my staff was freaking out. And they were like, there's a salon across the street. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So I grabbed my apprentice and I was like, come on, we're going over there. And she was like, no. And I was like, yes, we are going over there. And so I went over there and I was like, hey, like I introduced myself and I'm like, congrats. Because to me, it's like, I know how hard it is to open a salon.
Yeah.
You have to do plumbing, electrical, HVAC, all this stuff. Like it's very expensive and it's very hard. So anybody that can do it, like I want to congratulate them. Like I want to like let's celebrate that because it's very hard. Even just get through freaking permitting. Like, and so I went over there and I was like, hey, like congratulations. And I was like, oh yeah, I own the salon across the street. And they're like, there's a salon across the street. And so to me, I was like, I love that because they're also not looking at other people, like what other people are doing. And I think if you like are focused on what you're doing and not paying attention to what everyone else is doing, then your brand's always going to stand out. And then, but also like building community too. I have like another company where that's all we do is want to build the salon community. So we're constantly in contact with salons all over Dallas. And I think people like freak out about that because like the old school model of salons were not like that. Everybody was competitive. Everybody was like ruthless. And I'm just not like that. And we're trying to change that model of like, no, like let's all work together so that we can all have like really good salons and happy clients and do, you know, some cool hair, some fun hair. So yeah, for me, like I'm competitive in a different way. Like if you challenge me to like, you know, I have to walk every day. Yes, I'm going to be competitive. I'm going to wait till you go to sleep and then I'm going to walk more. But when it comes to like business and stuff like that, I genuinely want everyone to win.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, that's great. I'm a super competitive person, so I can relate for sure. Okay, Alfredina. Who is someone that has been like a pivotal figure or mentor for you, like in your journey?
Oh man, I was hoping you were going to ask me a question. That's like,
Who's your favorite person? No, I'm just kidding.
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. I'm just sitting here.
I will say that is one of my regrets in business and like starting in entrepreneurship is that I've never had just like a set mentor. I feel like people wax poetically about like this one figure who just like poured into them like so intentionally. And I don't think I had that. I had a lot of different personalities and professionals who have like sewn into me in like different ways. Also peers. So I wouldn't say it was just like had one specific person that was like a pivotal role. It's like a collection of wonderful folks who have like rallied behind me and my vision and have like spurred me forward. Like, and I'm also just like a big, like you have to be a student of your craft always. Like you can never like get ahead of yourself no matter like how advanced you get in your business. Like you have to be humble enough to like do grunt work and to learn and to like revisit your skills. And so yeah, I don't have an exact mentor, but like this group, like y'all spur me forward. Like I come to y'all with all the things. I'm like, am I crazy? Like, did I price this correct? Like, and y'all are like, hell no, they are out of line. Like that's encouraging. And that's like a moment that mentored to my business in such a wonderful way. Like it's also peers in the industry. They might have passion projects. And I'm like, hey, like, let me come in and like be an assistant for the day. Like, not charging, just trying to help you bring your vision to life. And in those moments, like I'm assisting them, but I'm also like learning so much because I get to witness how they work, their workflow, how they shoot, you know, how they navigate a set. And so it's something that I'm also like getting back from that experience, but I also get to see like my community grow. And like that's also nice. So yeah, it's just like a lot of small moments.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, one last question. This is for Angeli. How do you adapt to rapid change while keeping your core values intact?
Very timely question. I think it's the intentionality of slowing down for yourself, creating that space and creating that time, because time doesn't slow down. And so it's reminding myself, how do I stay grounded? What does that look like? Does that look like a coffee date with somebody that I trust in conversation? Does that look like simply going outside and feeling grounded, taking a walk? I think it's just taking just a moment to breathe. I just think that going back to the person that I am, and I think personally deal with overanalyzing and self-doubt a lot. And even going back to my previous question about having those people that I trust within my community to have those conversations, help quiet my own mind and build confidence within myself. And they allow for space for me in that way. And it's a continuous growth point for me is confidence. And so, I know that when somebody reaches out to me in that capacity, I know that it helps build my own confidence and to grow within making decisions, having conversations, listening to that internal thought process in that way.
That's great. I think there's a lot of wisdom in the intentionality, like taking the time to slow down and catch your breath. That's like even the Chinese proverb, measure twice, cut once. Yes. Slowing down to make sure you don't make mistakes. And even a little more modern proverb from Michael Jordan's book. He would find intentional moments in the game to preserve his energy. And so like late in the game when he knew like his core contribution was going to be on defense, if the other team was shooting free throws, he wouldn't even go to the other end of the court to get the rebound because he knew it was more important for him to wait and save his energy to play defense. And so I think taking that intentionality to slow down and pause and collect yourself and gather yourself is super smart. So I like that a lot. Okay, so this will be fun. It'll be less heavy. We're going to close with a rapid fire round. So try your hardest to not think about it. Just answer like first response and we'll just go around the table. First one is an easy one. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. What?
Coffee.
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 You are all correct. Okay, second one, book or movie?
Book.
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 Movie.
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 Okay. 50-50. Yep. I'll hold my answer so we can stay split. It's fine.
Divided.
Okay, risk versus stability.
Ooh. I'm going to go with risk.
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 I want to say risk, and I think I struggle with that. Like, I did take a big risk, so yeah, I probably should say risk, but I really do love stability at the same time. I think in this phase of my life, I'm going to go with stability.
Literally what I was thinking. I was like, we're in the middle of a transition here.
Yeah.
Stability.
My answer feels very similar. I like to create stability in order to take a calculated risk. So I don't know if that feels like a cop-out answer, but
It is, but it's okay.
I'm going to say stability.
Mine's complicated. I feel like you've encouraged me to take more risks, and I feel like the right answer is risk, considering we work together and we have our own business, but I do like stability in my life. So I guess it's kind of both. I think my journey has allowed me to take more risks. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, the last one is, do you prefer an in-office environment or remote flexibility?
Remote flexibility.
Oh man. I mean, for what I do, I kind of have to be there. I wish I could do your hair from home, but but I guess a hybrid because I can do both for what I do now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like being in the office. I like the energy.
Yeah, I love being in the shop.
I think I like being remote, having that hybrid model.
I like both. I don't know if I can do that, but I like the flexibility of working remote. But I think if we have to talk about a project or a campaign, I like being in the office together.
Cool.
Am I the only one that thought remote flexibility was like working on vacation on a beach or something? Whoops.
I want that option.
It's immediately where my brain went. I was like, oh, y'all mean the office. Okay. Whoops.
Yeah, that's the third option, and I think we'll all take that one. Cool. Well, that wraps up our questions. Thank you all so much for joining us for an episode. It's a lot of fun. Thanks for letting me be an honorary member of the Oak Cliff Women's Council for today. Thank you for joining the Thread the Needle podcast, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you.